So it means that federal agencies right now have to stop and halt all the plans for the firings that took place last week. So that means that those people will be able to keep their jobs for now, and that any future rounds of firings, as the White House suggested yesterday, is coming, will also be halted. This is just a temporary block, as you mentioned. They are just paused, and there will be a decision to come later on the merits of the case about whether these can proceed. It was quite a dramatic moment this afternoon because just before this ruling came out, Russ Vought, speaking on a Charlie Kirk podcast, said that he expects that layoffs would exceed 10,000 people. Right now, we've seen about 4,000 or so that have received layoff notices. So this is very much a clash of where the White House sees things going as where the judge came in and said, hey, look, you got to hold your horses here.
Laura, what's the status of conversations among lawmakers on Capitol Hill, among lawmakers and the White House, the Trump administration, just about sort of where we are in this shutdown and where it's going from here? I know there's a lot of concern about back pay. So the president was able to arrange for members of the military to be paid this week by moving some money around. The uncertainty begins to kind of compound and amass as time goes on here. What's the status of those negotiations, so much as there are negotiations here between Republicans and Democrats?
Yes, there are no negotiations happening. The House is still out. They've been out for the full 3 weeks of this shutdown. We're now on day 15. The Senate is in session, but they've continued to vote on the same bill, and they have had no progress. And there's been no really behind-the-scenes discussions happening. You've had small groups of moderate members trying to talk together, but those haven't really yielded anything. But the thing about a shutdown is that the first couple days, there's not much pain. But as the shutdown goes on, the pain compounds. You see, today, this week, and last week, we've had, millions of federal workers who have missed paychecks. Military members are getting paid at least this first paycheck this October 15th paycheck. They'll be paid, but it's unclear if later in the month, if the shutdown persists, if they will. We've already started to see some delays with air travel. Those could mount as the months go on here. So this is very much unknown about how this ends, but we do know that as the shutdown continues, things get more and more painful and unsustainable from a political standpoint.
Not good for any workers, though, that might be furloughed and not getting paid. But I want to ask you something about this because it made me kind of scratch my head. Laura, my understanding is that this isn't the final decision on the merits of the case, but also it has to do with union workers. How many of government workers are union workers? I didn't realize that there was a distinction.
Yeah, there's a high percentage of federal workers who are unionized. I don't know the exact figure, but there's a patchwork of unions that represent various agencies, and they've been very involved, in the process here. We really saw them start to mobilize earlier this year in regards to the Doge firings, as that happened very swiftly. This is one of the things that they've kind of realized is they need to get out in front of these cases a lot, because once workers leave the building, they have their badge taken away, they have their email taken away. It's really hard to bring some of those people back, even if they are later. If the firings are later ruled illegal. So you see sort of a change in strategy here of, wanting to make sure that those workers don't leave their posts, get out the door while the merits are being decided.
Laura, very quickly here, on the White House schedule, there is a press conference coming up with President Trump and Kash Patel, the director of the FBI. I'm curious if you have any sense of sort of what the two of them are going to be discussing with reporters. And obviously, I imagine we might hear some more here just about the state of the shutdown from them when they field those questions in a few minutes.
Yes, as always, Trump will take a question on a variety of different topics, even if the topic is focused on the FBI and the Department of Justice. So we'll see exactly how that shapes up. But, Trump is almost certainly going to react to this shutdown ruling on the firings, as well as, there's been sort of a flurry of news both around the shutdown as well as in global issues, China also being top of mind.
All right. So we're not quite sure what they're going to really talk about, though. We know there's going to be a lot asked, but we're not quite sure what the reason is, right?
Exactly. They have not yet specified that, which is not atypical.